Hero perks are the newest addition to Overwatch and are shaking up the game big time. Allowing Ana to nano herself or Sigma to levitate, or even giving Genji 25 extra damage on dash sometimes. Yeah, our beloved Cyber Ninja got done dirty this update. Let's change that. In this video, I will break down what makes good perk design, dive into the problems of Genji's bad perks, present solutions to keep their original intentions, and lastly, brainstorm completely new and fun ideas for future perk refreshes. Let's start off with 2 dev answers from a recent Reddit AMA to understand the guidelines we will follow. Perks are mainly about creating new things for your heroes to do, increasing situational viability and giving you more agency over your in-match experience. And here's the second one. Currently, the number buff perks are some of the perks we like the least, and plan on changing a handful of those over time. Your minor perks are supposed to be lighter, nice little upgrades, and your major perks are supposed to be transformative. With this, we now have a list of core design principles we can use moving forward, so let's put some perks to the test. Acrobatics falls under the situational viability category and sounds fine in theory for a minor perk, but falls flat in practice, as the only actual use case it has is multi-killing flyers, which will only really happen during Blade. If you want to know why exactly this is the case, I have a video explaining the perk choices for Genji that goes into that, so I'll avoid repeating myself here for the sake of time. So, as it currently stands, the perk is so niche that it's basically never going to be picked, which is a problem. Perks are meant to be a choice, but if one is much weaker than the other or fills a niche that's irrelevant 99.9% of the matches, the choice has already been made for you by the game, which is no fun. The good thing here is that the idea behind the perk isn't bad, it's the execution that kills it, and there are multiple easy fixes for this issue. The simplest is to just remove the condition for the extra jump, making the perk a flat +1 jump upgrade. I don't like this one too much because it's very close to being free value, but at least you have to put thought into using that extra mobility to your advantage. It's also possible to change the condition to something much more broadly useful, such as wall climb, actually giving Genji more mobility in an interesting and thoughtful way without being overly niche. Lastly, extra jump could be tweaked into something else, such as refreshing wall climb after dash or double jump, but I think this is the worst idea of the 3. It's hard to tell exactly how good each of these would be if implemented, but it would be a step in the right direction and balance can be adjusted fast if it's too out of line. Moving on to Dragon's Thirst, the perk is honestly really cool and provides Genji a nice yet thoughtful boost that makes Blade usable in more situations without making it broken, or at least that's the case with Dry Blade. Damage boosts not only make him get kills faster, but they also gave him more healing per swing, limiting counterplay at a dangerously fast rate. Add to that nano damage reduction, and Genji might as well be immortal while wielding one of the strongest weapons in the game, creating a massive fun problem for the enemy team. To address this, a very simple change could be made to keep the power level of Naked Blade the same while weakening the insane combo potential it has with certain ultimates, which is to swap the lifesteal for a flat heal. Comboing will still be very strong, but it won't be so overwhelming anymore that the best course of action for the enemy team is to lose the fight fast without committing ultimates. Alright, minor perks are done, so let's dive into his major ones, which are a disaster. Meditation is okay in terms of power, and it does give the player more agency and situational viability, but it's not really transformative, and, worst of all, it isn't fun or even noticeable in most cases. Major red flags here. So, how do we go about fixing this? Well, this one is much harder than our previous cases, as the original idea is hard to salvage due to how limited it is. For example, changing it to a heal based on the damage blocked encourages the worst possible use of the cooldown, which is the deflect spam going down main rather than using it to take aggressive positions and duel other players. Not only that, it's extremely inconsistent by design since it depends on your opponents not only shooting your deflect, but doing so with high damage weapons that can actually be deflected. What happens if the enemy team mostly has beams? There are so many issues I could list that I won't even bother, so scrap that. I don't see a way to make the healing work, so a different approach that's still in the realm of sustain is damage reduction. Making Genji take less damage from the sides and back would simply reward bad positioning, so the only idea I could see for this is to give him a way to deal with beams, but it would have to be balanced really carefully to keep deflect fair instead of making it a free escape cooldown in literally every situation imaginable. Personally, I think moving away from the sustain idea and just reworking the deflect perk from the ground up is the best course of action, and one of the favorite ideas I've heard is a perfect parry mechanic, making anything deflected in the first half second the deflect is active a crit. Numbers would have to be carefully balanced, which means both the window of time for the auto crit and the crit damage itself could be adjusted. But in terms of design philosophy, I think this idea is perfect as it not only rewards good timing, but also aggressive deflect usage, which makes the cooldown go from more of a safety option that usually catches specific cooldowns like Sleep Dart and Hook, to a damage-oriented tool in the right circumstances. Transformative, thoughtful, and, most importantly, fun. 10 out of 10 from me, love the suggestion. Last but not least is blade twisting, which is once again inherently flawed. To start, messing with Genji's damage breakpoints is like navigating a game balance minefield, which forced the devs to put the extra damage behind a condition and overtime effects. Not only that, any perks related to eliminations are awful, both in terms of design and gameplay, because they are redundant, unfun to play against, and they are extremely inconsistent by nature. Thankfully, the other idea behind this perk, which is to reward aggressive play, is something you can work with, leading me to a few different rework paths. My favorite idea is to reward the number of targets hit with dash with something like a small cooldown reduction, just like Junker Queen has with Carnage. Dash has multiple uses ranging from ability to juking or dealing damage in duels, but rarely is it wise to dash through multiple enemies for the AoE pressure, since it will either put you in a bad position, causing your deflect to be forced immediately and thus tanking your uptime for a low quality engagement, or it will make you leave your aggressive angle for some weak splash damage instead of saving dash so you can keep being annoying on the side, focusing key targets. The goal of this perk is to open up new opportunities for dash that previously weren't worth it 99% of the time, transforming the way you play the character by allowing you to go for aggressive cleaves on the enemy team to overwhelm their sustain with constant pressure, as long as you don't feed, that is. High risk, high reward, thoughtful, and fun. It's also possible to make variations of this idea, such as giving Genji a slight amount of overhealth per target hit, but I'm not fond of that idea. What I am fond of is another community suggestion that takes the complete opposite approach. Instead of reducing the cooldown when your dash hits enemies, it now does so when you don't connect with anything. This way, Genji becomes a much more mobile character that can leverage that mobility to find annoying angles to play from, either applying pressure from them or even just setting up deep and going for assassinations. Less transformative for sure, but still good enough due to tactical utility provided, promoting a more calculated style of play. Alright, it's finally time to look at the end result of our work. At level 2, we now have a much closer choice between an always active nice little upgrade to movement and a powerful but not obnoxious sustain buff during Blade only. This allows the player to pick between a stronger neutral or better power spike depending on their playstyle preference, as well as the map and matchups at hand. At level 3, both perks now transform the way you use your cooldowns, rewarding aggressive play if piloted correctly. Do you want to become a menace at duels, or would you rather gain the tactical benefits of a lower dash cooldown? Both are powerful choices, so pick wisely depending on the circumstances of the match. So, what do you think? I tried to stick to simple yet effective ideas that would be fast to implement into the game, but I wouldn't be surprised if crazier stuff came in the future. Can you imagine throwing long-range lashes during Blade after charging it up for a bit? Or getting a smoke bomb for temporary stealth? There are so many cool things possible that it makes me excited for the future of Overwatch just brainstorming different hero fantasies. If you would like to support the work that I do while getting amazing benefits, then let me tell you about a special offer I'm running on my Patreon page. Until the end of this month, using the code PERKREWORK at checkout will get you 20% off any membership tier of your choosing, so if you're looking to accelerate your growth as a Genji player, now is a great time to consider. If you're unsure whether or not you want to commit to a membership, use the 7-day trial to participate in a live workshop for free or watch any of my public VODs.